Welcome back to Subramaniam Shankar for Enterprise UK, presenting you the Mastering CISSP series. And today we are going to have a look at the access control. So access control is a wonderful domain, and because we have an identity and access management itself as a separate domain as a part of CISSP. The earlier version of CISSP, I mean before 2015, had an access control itself as a domain. Yeah, and the entire security, if you actually look into it in a very broad perspective, it all boils down to the Mecklenburg cube. Okay, I'll explain you, or I'll have a separate video on what exactly it is. And the security risk management and the access control. Okay, so when you say the data classification is on one side, okay, subject to object, accessing object is anyway the data, and your data classification policies and your clearance and all those things will boil down, okay, to the access control. What can the subject actually do on the object is what the access control is, and that is what the entire security is. Okay. So Microsoft is actually bringing up something. Yeah. So there are different types of access controls. So the first thing is actually called as a directive. This is something that has been added up post 2015. And the other one is deterrent, preventive, corrective, recovery, directive, and compensating. Now, what is a directive control? Directive control is an encouraging one. Okay, I try to enter the building, and it says the car parking is towards your right hand side or left hand side, whatever it is. That is a directive control. Directive control is actually going to direct you towards what you should be doing. It encourages. Okay, you don't have to ask anybody. Even that's also a directive control. If you want to ask a physical security guard standing there on how do you enter the premises, where is the reception, where is the front desk, and where is the car park, etc., that's also a directive control. Having a signage is also a directive control. Yeah, and then you are driving down the motorway, and there is a lane closure ahead, and it says there is a cross mark, okay, on the board, okay, on the electronic board. Okay, that's also a directive control. Now, coming on to deterrent control, deterrent controls are the security controls that are going to discourage an unauthorized person from doing something. Okay, deterrent control will not stop you; it's just discouraging. For example, CCTV camera surveillance in progress for your security could be a deterrent control, but CCTV camera in itself will not be there. Okay, but if you want to have a poster like that, okay, if there's a malicious or sinister guy with a sinister motive in a particular location, he will look around, and whatever object he is looking into, he will feel that there is a hidden camera inside, okay, and that is going to record all the activity. Now, having said that, you can also have a dome-based CCTV camera on the ceiling, or you can just have this dome on the ceiling without a CCTV camera. Okay, so just a cup on the ceiling. So that will also give a feeling to everyone that they're actually being watched. Okay, that is a deterrent control. These are all deterrent control on the the physical security. I'll come to the different types of security. Okay, so physical, administrative, and then what is called as a technical later. So the deterrent controls are the security controls that are going to discourage a person with a sinister motive in doing something, okay, which is not good. Okay, now what is the preventive control? Preventive control is actually going to stop an intruder, okay, from entering inside, or stop a hacker from getting onto a network infrastructure, or stop anybody, okay, an unauthorized person from doing an activity which is not authorized. Okay, that is a preventive control. Now, deterrent control will discourage, and the preventive control will stop. Okay, for example, in South Asia, okay, if you look at few residences, the gate will have a board, beware of dogs. That doesn't mean that you cannot open the gate. You can still open the gate. So beware of dogs is just deterrent control. Deterrent control. If they want to have a chain or a log on the gate, that actually becomes a preventive control. Yeah, in fact, it is also lawful to have a deterrent control and the preventive control, because I have warned you. In spite of the warning, you had not been listening, and you are doing an activity which you are not supposed to, and I'm stopping you. Okay, it's lawful. Okay, don't drive more than 70 miles an hour on the motorway. It's something which is a directive. Okay, but you don't listen to it. Okay, and you drive at 80 miles an hour or 90 miles an hour on the motorway, then I can even charge you and say that we have one. It's against the law. So deterrent control is something, and what happens is if you drive more than 70 miles an hour, and you're going to have your satellite navigator. I had been using Garmin, okay, earlier, and if I'm going to drive more than 70 miles an hour, especially, and it's going to give me a warning. There's a beep sound. That's a deterrent control. Okay, so what is the preventive one? Okay, preventive one is to stop you actually. So the police coming and saying that, okay, you have bypassed the law, so this is your penalty. Okay, there's a deterrent and preventive control. Now, what is a corrective action recovery? Corrective and recovery is more apt when you discuss from the BCP perspective or the DR perspective. Disaster recovery is anywhere recovery control, okay, because disaster recovery in itself. What is the corrective action? Business continuity. Now, suppose that I'm running an office for the building A, okay, and the building A is not operational because of the power shutdown, okay, or power cut, or there's natural calamity. Okay, I need to still run my business. So if I'm going to have a building B with the same setup, okay, that becomes my corrective action. But the building A is not able to be functional one because of so and so reasons. Okay, it could be innumerable. Okay, and the corrective control can be my building B from where I can make it operational. Okay, there could be some configurational changes here and there, which could be automatic or which could be manual, but still, and I have a team which can support me. Okay, there's a corrective action. Now, having said that, there's another example. If a particular system is infected with a virus, okay, or a malware, any malware, what I can actually do is I can isolate that system from the network. There is a corrective action. And updating the antivirus signature or scanning the system within different types of antiviruses. Okay, and these are all recovery controls. And same thing happens because we are crossing the age of the COVID. Okay, if a particular person is infected, okay, we are going to quarantine him, right? So, but he gets onto a self-isolation. That's a corrective action. What is the recovery? So you have the proper medicines, okay, and then you recover from it. Okay. In fact, my roots are from India. So we have the Ayurveda, Siddha medicine that had been treating these patients wonderfully. Yeah, there are proofs for it. But anyway, coming on to our subject. So recovery control is to ensure that you are able to continue their business. And corrective control is to ensure that you are continuing with the business, and recovery control is to ensure that you are building back, okay, the original site that has been hit to the working condition. For example, if a building has been attacked by a natural calamity, and I am moving on to a building B for operations and getting the restoring the power on the building A, or the natural calamity is so severe that the building itself is not operational. So getting the original building A back to operational state, okay, is a recovery control. Okay. Now, what is the directive and compensating? Directive is in no way involved in your operations, but to ensure that the similar incident will not occur again. Okay, so we need to have directive control. Okay, in fact, when we discuss about the Salzer, the Schroeder's principle, we will also discuss about compromise recording as one of the recommendations or one of the principles from Salzer and Schroeder. Compromise recording will not stop the compromise, but we need to record the compromise so that we are prepared. Okay, next time if it's going to attack us. We can face an incident. We should not be facing any incident. If we face an incident, we can face it once. We cannot face the same incident more than once. Okay, that means that our IT operations are not, IT operations is not efficient basically. Okay, so directive control is to have your intrusion detection system, an SIEM, or your CCTV camera. They're all directive control. Yeah. Now, what is the compensating control? Compensating controls are when the primary control fails, or to supplement the primary control also. For example, if you want to have two firewalls to form your DMZ, okay, so demilitarized zone, that is also a compensating control. Second firewall becomes a compensating control. And if you want to have let's say, there are organizations that have an different type of malware for the server, different type of malware for the client. There's also compensating control. If one type of anti-malware is not in a position to detect a particular malware, okay, the other one could detect it. Okay, so there's also a compensating control, and compensating control is also in the primary control fails. Okay, this also in line with the defense in depth. Okay, for example, an access card reader in a door is actually not working. So what is the compensating control? Is to have physical security guard standing there. Okay, now there could be an entry or exit where there's a physical security guard and also an access card reader. Okay, so that there are people who might tailgate. Okay, and if an employee is going to open the door, and if an unauthorized user is going to follow the employee, okay, so to prevent these type of incidents, okay, we need to have a physical security guard standing there. But where exactly this is happening, it all depends, okay? Because within the campus, okay, when you have crossed 2 or 3 levels of access restrictions, and then you have shown your ID card, and you are at a point where no unauthorized user, okay, can be available, you need not have physical security guard standing there. If it's going to be on your perimeter and your employee has to look at, show your ID card, get inside, and there could be a possibility of tailgating. So if the entry is from untrusted area to a trusted area, okay, you need to have physical security guard standing there as well as the access card reader. And if it's from the one trust zone of the physical security to other trust zone of physical security, you might not have a physical security guard standing there, but there could be a control that is supplementing. Okay, for example, a CCTV looking at the entry and exit. Okay, so that could also be one of the controls available. So compensating control will act when the primary control actually fails, and when the primary control is not able to control a particular incident or infiltration or whatever it is. Okay, you might call it as a compensating in this scenario or supplementing control in this particular scenario. Okay. Now, these are the categories of the security control that we are going to have: administrative, physical, and then technical. Now, what is an administrative? Administrative is also called as a managerial control. The managerial controls are the controls which are going to guide the people. Okay, usually it is a deterrent and then directive. Don't share your password could be an administrative control. CCTV camera operations in the surveillance and progress for your security could also be an administrative control anyway. Okay, so the signages, your documents, okay, your policies, procedures, guidelines, etc., they are all administrative control. They're going to support your security operations. Okay, people cannot say, "Oh, I did not know that," so I'll give them a security awareness session on a regular basis, and when they join the organization. So that is also an administrative control. What is the physical control? Physical control, the objective is to ensure that the intruders are not entering the facility, and your facility is not washed away by a natural calamity. Ideally, you have to choose a location which is not washed away by the natural calamity, or you have to construct a building in such a way that you are strong enough, okay, to withstand the natural calamity. So physical security is to ensure that your physical infrastructure is all secure, and also to ensure that the intruders don't jump onto the facility to make any steal or theft, whatever it is. So physical security controls are more, the bollards that you want to have, okay, to prevent the vehicles from just driving into your premises. It could be electronically controlled, electrically controlled, okay, or it could be a permanent bollard, okay, to ensure that to stop the vehicles actually. Electronically controlled bollards will allow the vehicles from to pass through if they're authorized. Okay, so physical security control is to ensure that the intruders are also not able to intrude your facility. Okay, so having a CCTV camera, physical security guard, door with access card reader. Okay, so this could be a physical security control. And technical controls are all the controls that you're going to implement using a hardware and a software, basically, to prevent the malicious software's infiltration or malicious traffic's infiltration or exfiltration of the data, so towards your DLP. So in a very general term, that could be a technical security control. Now, getting on to the previous slide, okay, There could be a control that can be categorized under multiple types, actually. For example, a CCTV camera is a deterrent control and is also detective control. Looking at the CCTV camera, and an unauthorized user or somebody with a sinister motive will not perform anything that is unlawful. Okay, so in that particular scenario, it becomes a deterrent control. And if they're going to commit a crime, then the CCTV camera is going to record it. In that case, it becomes a detective control. Okay, and if you look at the physical security guard, if I'm going to ask them for a direction, okay, so they become a directive control. If looking at them, I'm an intruder. Looking at them, I think twice before jumping out of the facility. Then they become a deterrent control. If I jump onto the facility and I'm an unauthorized user or an intruder, so they stop me from getting onto the facility. In this scenario, they become a preventive control. Okay, so they can also be corrective and recovery. Okay, for example, they can help people to get onto the cab. Okay, and when there's a disaster, so they become a detective control. In case the automatic dispensation of fire extinguisher is not enough to suppress the fire, so they can bring in, they can bring in the fire extinguisher and they can fight the fire. So in this scenario, they can also be a recovery control. So in case I'm going to ask them a question, did you see anybody wearing an let's say a peculiar, a pink color shirt and a green color trouser walking out? Okay, or I can give an other the ways of looking at or identifying a particular person and ask them, did you find this person leaving the premises or entering the premises? In this scenario, they become a detective control. And as I said, if the access card reader is actually not working at a particular door and they can stand there, they might not be that efficient, because if somebody is not authorized to enter inside, they have been terminated, but still he comes inside with an ID card. Okay, the security guard will not be in a position to determine whether he has been terminated or not, but in a way, he can prevent an intruder without an ID card from getting inside. So there's a compensating control. So it all depends upon from what perspective we are looking at the control. Okay, so it can be directive, deterrent, preventive, corrective, recovery, and detective and compensating. So in your CISSP examination, okay, moment you see CCTV camera, immediately you cannot jump out of the conclusion saying it's a detective control. We need to read the question. Okay, though we have a little more than 1 minute for a particular question, we need to read the question, okay, and understand carefully, and then answer the right type of control, okay, not to jump on the conclusion. So thanks for joining me for this particular video, and bye-bye until I speak to you next. Have a wonderful day. Cheers.